So we are going to discuss about how we are going to manage the databases in PostGres. Okay. So the today's topic is database management. So before going to how to manage the databases, the point that you need to understand is PostGres cluster. Okay. So PostGres cluster contains PostgreSQL cluster slash instance, or Postgres cluster or instance contains what? So if this is a Postgres cluster, this Postgres cluster contains databases. So databases contains schemas. Schemas contains objects. This is what we will be discussing one by one. Okay. So as part of this, today we will be starting with a concept called database management. In the next session, we will be seeing a schema management. Then we will be seeing a user management, and like that we will be gone. Okay. The course will go on. Okay. So when I say database, okay, when I say a database in Postgres, database contains one or more schemas. Database contains one or more schemas. Okay, so then how to create a database? Okay, how can we create a you? Okay, create database, create database name, create database name will create a data new empty database. Okay, so is this the only syntax? No, we can pass through couple of parameters like who should be the owner, how many number of connections that we can limit this database, and all those things we can mention. So the user, okay, the user whoever executed this command will be the owner of the database. Okay, the user whoever executed this create database command will be the owner of the database. By default he will be the owner of the database. Okay, if you want to have a particular user as a owner for the database, then the syntax would be database create database name owner to owner name. Okay, create database name owner to owner name. This is how you need to mention. Okay, create database name owner to owner name. This is how you need to mention. Okay, these are the things through which you can create any database in the Postgres. Okay, and one more thing, how to list the database. Okay, so now you are connected to a Postgres cluster, and if you want to see how many database we have, then you have to mention like /l. /l is to list the databases. This is important. Okay, /l is to list the DBs. /l plus will give you a detailed listing. Okay, detailed listing. /l will give you the list of the databases. /l plus gives you the detailed listing. And what is the data dictionary through which you can check the databases? Details pg underscore database. Okay, pg underscore database is a data dictionary which contains the information about databases that are available in the Postgres cluster. Okay, /l plus and pg database will give you the same result. Okay, will gives you the same result, but you should know the shortcut command which is like /l, or you should know, and you should know the data dictionary which is like pg database to get the details. Okay, and one more thing. Okay, so whenever you create, okay, whenever you install a Postgres cluster, by default three databases will be created. One is postgres, second one is template one, and third one is template 0. These are the default databases. Okay, whenever you create any Postgres cluster, these are the default databases that will be created. Okay, those are the default database that will be created. Now we will be seeing what is the use of template 1, what is the use of template 0, and what is Postgres database. Before going to that, let's connect and check how many default databases we have in our Postgres cluster. Okay, let me connect to the cluster. So let me connect. So pg underscore ctl hyphen d slash u root. Okay, what happened? Okay, server is already running, it seems. Okay, psf nef grep postgres. Yeah, it is running. Now let me connect. So PSQL slash L will give you the list of database. How many database you have? Postgres, template 0 and template 1. And detailed listing means it will give you the list of size of the database as well. Okay, it gives you the size of the database and table space information as well. Now slash date. What was the data dictionary? PG underscore database. Okay, so pg underscore database contain dat name. Dat name is a database name. Okay, if you want to get the details using data dictionary, you can use pg underscore database. You can use pg underscore database. Okay, so slash l will give you the list of database. Postgres, template 0 and template 1. So when we were discussing about the syntax for creating a database, okay, when we were discussing about the syntax for creating a database, what is the syntax? Create database. I'm going to create a database called rman. Create a database rman. Okay, create a database name. This is how you will create database, right? Whenever you create a database using create database command, a new database will be created by copying one of the default database called template 1. Okay, template 1 will be used as a reference for creating a new database. Okay, so how we can put, let me put it in this way. Whenever you create any database using create database statement, a new database will be created by cloning a default database called template 1. By cloning a default database called template 1. So when I say cloning, so it will take template 1 as a reference and it will create a new database called rman. Okay, it will create a new database called rman. The point that you need to remember is whenever you create any database, okay, whenever you create any database using create database statement, template 1 will be used as a reference. Okay, template 1 will be used as a reference. Let me create a database. Okay, let me create the database here. Okay, create database rman. So when I create a database, okay, when I create a database, a new database will be created with the name rmen by taking template 1 as a reference. That is how we will use template 1 database. Okay, so what are all the default database that we have? It can be a template 0 or it can be a template 1 or it can be a postgres. We don't use these databases to store the application data. When I say an application data, data specific to that business or data specific to that application. Okay, these are the default. It is not recommended to store, it is not recommended to store the application specific data in the default databases. Okay, by default, whenever you create any database using create database statement, template 1 will be taken as a reference. Okay, now let me do one thing. I have a scenario. Okay, I have a scenario. What is the scenario? So I get a requirement to create databases called db1, db2, db3, like 20 databases I need to create, and each database contains two schemas, schema 1 and schema 2. Schema 1, schema 2, schema 1, schema 2. So this is the requirement. Okay, I need to create 20 database and each database should contain two schemas. One is schema 1 and schema 2. What is the first approach? First, create all the databases using database create database db1. Okay, the first approach would be create database db1. Likewise, you need to create how many databases? Create database db20, like 20 databases you need to create. Once the creation is completed, you need to connect to each database slash c db1. Okay, slash c space db1, then create two schemas. Create schema 1. The next one is create schema 2. Likewise, how many schemas you need to create? 20. I mean, how many database, for how many database you need to create, like this slash c db20. Okay, so you need to create the 20 databases first. then you need to connect each and every database, and you need to execute create schema statement for each and every database. Okay, this is a lengthy process. Okay, instead of doing that, what I'll do, so as I said, whenever you create a new database, a template one will be taken as a reference. Now what I'll do, right, first I'll connect to the template one database. Okay, first I'll connect to the template one database. Then what I'll do, I'll create two schemas, create schema 1, then create schema 2. This is how I'll create. Okay, then now what I'll do, I'll create the databases, create database db1. Likewise, how many database I'll create? 20. Create database db20. Okay, so when I created database db1, which database will be taken as a reference? Template 1 will be taken as a reference, as template 1 contains these two schemas. These two schemas will be copied automatically to which database? db1. Likewise, each and every database will get schema 1, schema 2. Okay, this is a simple approach. Okay, which means template 1. Okay, template 1 allows you to the site, allows you to do a site local modifications. Site local modification, what does it mean by site local modifications? You can connect to the template 1. Okay, what does it mean by site local modifications? Site local modification tells that you can connect to the template 1, and okay, you can connect to the template 1 and you can do the modifications. Okay, you can connect to the template 1 and you can do some modifications. Okay, let me do that. Okay, first what I'll do, /c gives you the details, like, okay, /c, what it is telling, you are now connected to a database postgres as a user postgres. Now what I'll do, right, I'll switch to a template 1 database, /c space template 1. This is one approach to, okay, this is one approach to switch from one database to another database. If you don't want to do that, just quit from the PSQL and PSQL hyphen D template 1. This is how you can switch as well. Okay, now I'm creating two schemas in the under the template 1. Okay, database contains schemas. Okay, under the template 1 I'm creating two schemas. Create schema sch1, create schema sch2. This schema management you will be seeing it in another class. Okay, /dn will give you the list of schemas. How many schemas we have? We have public is a default schema, that's it, that's okay. Schema 1 and schema 2 are the two schemas that we have created in the, that we have created in where, that we have created under the template 1 database. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll try to create a database called db1. Okay, do we need to connect to any specific database to execute a create database statement? No. Okay, okay, you can be in any of the database and you can fire the create database statement to create the database. Okay, now create database db1. Okay, now I have created a database. Now let me connect to the db1 database. Okay, /c db1. Okay, now let us check. See, will you be able to see schema 1 and schema 2? Right, yes. Why it got copied automatically? Because whenever you execute a create database statement, okay, so a template 1 database will be used as a template, or template 1 database will be cloned to create a new database. Okay, clone to create a new database. Okay, so now, so do we need to use only template 1? Do we need to use only template 1 as a template database? No. Okay, by default template 1 will be used as a template. Okay, by default template 1 will be used as a template database, but you can use any database as a template database by passing template parameter while creating a database. Okay, by passing template parameter while creating a database. So what would be the syntax now? Create database. Okay, create database name will be db2, and template, which database you want to use it as a template, which database you want to use it as a template. Okay, which database you want to use it as a template. If you want to use any particular database as a template database without template 1, then you need to use a parameter called template while creating a database. This is how we can do. Now we'll see what is the difference between, okay, we'll see what is the difference between template 0 and template 1. So we have a two standard databases, template 0 and template 1. So now we'll see the differences. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll try to connect to the template 1 database. I will try to connect to the template 1 database, PSQL-D template 1. So will you be able to connect to the template 1? Yes. Okay, it allows the connect template 1, it allows the connections, it allows connections. Second step is it allows site local modifications, which means you can connect to the database and you can connect to the database and you can perform any operations like creating a schema or creating objects. Okay, it allows site local modifications. It allows site local modifications. Okay, now we'll see template 0. Let me try to connect to the template 0 database. Okay, let me try to connect to the template 0 database, PSQL-D template 0. Is it allowing you to connect? No, database template 0 is not currently accepting the connections. Okay, not currently accepting the connections. So does it mean, what does it mean? It doesn't allow the connections. It doesn't allow the connections. What is the second step? It doesn't allow site local modifications. It doesn't allow site local mod. What does it mean by site local modifications? Site local modifications means simply modifications are not allowed. Okay, modifications in the sense like you can't create any objects in the template 0. It doesn't allow site local modifications. It does not allow site local modifications. Okay, this is the difference between template 0 and template 1. Okay, so when I say template 1, okay, when I say template 0, okay, template 0, as you are not able to control the database, will you be able to change anything? No. Okay, but for template 1, as you are allowed to connect, you can modify something. Okay, so now when we will be using template 0 and when we will be using template 1. Okay, if you don't specify, okay, if you don't specify any template database, then what is the default database that will be taken as a reference? Template 1. Then what is the use of template 0? Okay, as template 0 is not allowing the connections. Okay, you can create a virgin database. Okay, you can create a virgin database by using template 0 as a template database. What does it mean by virgin database? Virgin database means the moment you install the postgres cluster, okay, the moment you install the postgres cluster, both template 1 and template 1 and template 0 both contain same contents, whereas template 1 may be modified after some time. Okay, as a what I did as a postgres administrator, what I did in template 1, I have created two schemas, schema 1 and schema 2. I have created two schemas called schema 1 and schema 2, which means I did some modifications to the template 1 database, whereas template 0 it won't be allowed. So my requirement is I wanted to create a new database called db2. I wanted to create a new database called db2. This database should not contain any site local modifications, which means is are we sure to use template 1 as a template database? No, we are not sure, because template 1 might be modified by someone. Template 1 might be modified by someone, so it is not recommended to use template 1 when you want to, when the requirement is to have a new database without having any site local modifications. How can we do that? So as we are not allowed to use, when I say as we are not allowed, we are under impression that template 1 might be modified by someone. So what I'll do, I'll use template 0 as a template database. Create database db2. Okay, create database db2 template 0 template 0. When I do this /l, So now let me connect to the db2 database. db2 slash dn. Do we have any schemas which are there in template 1? No. Because we have used template 0 as a template database, so and template 0 will not allow the connections. Okay, you can't do any site local modifications. That this is how we will use template 0 when you want to create a virgin database. When you want to create a virgin database, what does it mean by a virgin database? Virgin database is nothing but a database without having any site local modifications. Without having any site local modifications, we call it as a virgin database. Okay, template 0 will always be a virgin database because template 0 will not allow you the connections. Now let me list the databases. Slash l is used to list the databases. Okay, now what I'll do, what is the command to rename the database? Okay, if you want to rename the database, the command would be alter database. I wanted to rename the database db1 from alter database db1 rename to, okay, alter database db1 rename to what? Rename to db. See, slash l. See, a database db1 is renamed to db. So now how to change the ownership? Okay, if you want to change the ownership from postgres, okay, who is the current owner? Slash l db. Who is the owner for the db database? The owner is postgres. I wanted to change the ownership from postgres to connector. Okay, alter database. Okay, alter database. What is the database name? db owner to, okay, alter database name owner to connector. See, now slash ldb. See, who is the owner of that database now? Owner of the database is connector user. Previously, who is the owner? The owner of the previously the postgres is the owner of this db database. Now we change the ownership from postgres to a connector user. This is how you can change the ownership. Okay, whenever you create, okay, slash l plus db, whenever you create any database without specifying a table space name, so pg underscore default will be the default table space of the database. What does it mean by table space? How can we create and how can we change that? We will be seeing it in the table space management session. Okay, so whenever you create any database without specifying, whenever you create any database without specifying the database name, sorry, without specifying the without specifying the table space name, then pg underscore default will be the default table space of the database. Okay, default table space of the database. Okay, and one more thing we need to discuss is, as I said, you can use any database as a template database without any database as a template database by passing a parameter called template1. By passing a parameter called template, sorry, by passing a parameter called template. Now what we will do, right? Now what I'll do, right? I have how many databases I have? I have Armen database, right? I have a Armen database. In this Armen database, how many schemas I have? Schema 1, schema 2. Now I will be creating a one more schema called schema 3. How can you create a schema for now? Just you can ignore that. We will be having a separate session for schema management. Okay, we will be having a separate session for schema management. Now I will be creating a one more brand new schema 3, and I am going to create, okay, I am going to create one more database called copy, and I'm planning to use Armen database as a template database. Okay, Armen database as a template database. Okay, Armen database as a template database. So now we will be seeing some limitations for using any database as a template database. Okay, we will be seeing some limitations for using any database as a template database. Okay, now here let me, so in this session I'm trying to connect to the database called Armen. Okay, here I connected, right? Now here also I can let me connect to the Armen database. Okay, I have two Armen database. Okay, I have two sessions for this database. In this session I connected to Armen. In this session also I connected to what? Armen database. Now what I'll do, and for Armen data I'm going to list the schemas. Okay, slash dn is used to list the schemas. Slash dn is used to list the schemas. Now let me create a schema, create schema 1, sorry, create schema 1, 1 minute, create schema 1, create schema 2, create schema 3. These are the three schemas that I have created. Okay, the under the rmain database. Now what I am trying to do, so I quit from here, just I log into any of the database, and I'm trying to create a database. Create database copy template. Rman. I'm going to use template. Which database as a template database? Rman database as a template database. Let's see what is going to happen. Okay, let's see what is going to happen. See what it is saying. Source database Rman is being accessed by the other users. There is one other session using this database. Okay, the limitation for using any database as a template database means, if you want to use any database as a template database, there should be no active connections. Okay, that the database which you want to use it as a template database should not be accessed by the any other users. Okay, it should not be accessed by the any other users. And one more thing is, if you want to rename also, okay, alter database, okay, alter database rman rename to alter database rman rename to rmn. See, for renaming also there should be no active connections to the database. Okay, if you want to rename or if you want to use any database as a template database, the database should not be accessed by the any other users. Now what I'll do, I'll disconnect from here. Okay, I have disconnected from here. Now let me try to use this database as a template. See, a new database has been created which is called copy. Let me connect to the copy database slash d, and all the three schemas has been populated to the copy database use as well. Okay, if you want to use any database as a template database, or if you want to rename any database, there should be no active connections. Okay, there should be no active connections. That is the point. Okay, how to drop the database? If you want to drop the database, drop database. Okay, drop database rman. I'm going to drop the database. This is how you need to drop the database. Drop database name. Okay, now one more point you have to think of is, can anyone use any database as a template database? Can anyone use any database as a template database? A big no. Okay, we can't. It is not allowed to use any user. Okay, it is not allowed to use any database as a template database by any user. For to understand more on this, we have to have a look into the pg underscore database data dictionary. So there is a data dictionary called pg underscore database. You need to look into that. Okay, let's go and have a glance on pg underscore database data dictionary. Okay, slash d pg underscore database. So select dat name comma. So dat name is a database name, and there are two more column names that you need to concentrate on. One is dat is template. Dat is template talks about whether the database can be used as a template database or not. Whether the database can be used as a template database or not. And second one is dat allow connection. Dat allow connections from pg underscore database. Okay, what are the list of privilege that are there, that are required on the database, and how can we list the privilege? Those things we will be discussing it in the privilege management class. Okay, so select dat name means database name. Dat is template. It talks about whether the particular database can be used as a template database or not. And dat allow connections, whether particular database allows the connections or not from pg underscore database. Okay, now let's see this. Let me take a snip of this. We will discuss about this. Okay, let me open this. Okay, so if you observe it carefully, for template 0, okay, for template 0, what is the dat allow connections? Dat allow connections is false. That is the reason why it won't allow you to connect to any of the, sorry, it won't allow you to connect to the template 0 database. Okay, it won't allow you to connected to the template 0 database. For template 0, that allow connection talks about whether the connections are allowed on the database or not. What is the value for this data allow connection? The value for the data allow connections is false, which means the connections are not allowed. The connections are not allowed. For the rest of the database, either it can be a postgres or template 1 or db2 db copy. For all the databases, what is the data low connection? Data low connection is true. That is the reason why we are able to connect. When the data low connection is true, true refers to able to connect, false means no, not able to. Okay, so that is fine. Okay, now does it mean by that is template? That is template talks about whether we can use any database as a template database. Okay, for this the answer is no, you can't use any database as a template database. Okay, if you observe it, template for template 1, that is template is true. For template 0, that is template is true. For the rest of the things, okay, for the rest of the postgres database or db database or db2 database or copy database, what is the value of that is template? That is template is false. Okay, if the that is template column of a particular database is false, then only either super user or owner of the database can use the database as a template database. Okay, if that is template column of a particular database is false, okay, if that is template column of a particular database is false, then only either super user or the owner of the database can use this database as a template database. But if you observe it, for template 0 and for template 0 and template 1, that is template column is true, which means any user who can have the privileges for the creating a database, they can use this database as a template database. Okay, so that is template column talks about whether we can use particular database as a template database or not. If that is template column of a particular database is true, then any user with create db privilege can make use of this database as a template database. If that is template column of a particular database is false, then only either super user or user with or owner of the database can use this database as a template database. Now we'll see this practically. Okay, now give like /l for the db database. Who is the owner? Connector is the owner. Let me grant create db privilege to a connector. Create alter user. Forget about these commands because we will be discussing it in the privilege management. Okay, alter user connector. Okay, alter user connector with create db, alter user connector with the create db. Now what I'll do here, I'll connect as a connector user psql -u connector -d postgres. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll try to make use of create database new. Create database, what is the database name? New underscore db. Okay, new underscore db template. I'm trying to use copy as a template database. Am I allowed to do? No, I am not allowed to do, because for the copy database, who is the owner? Postgres. Okay, either super user or the owner of the database is allowed to use the database as a template database. But for the db database, who is the owner? Connector. Now let me try to use db database as a template database. Okay, create database new underscore db template db. See, I am able to create use the database as a template database because I am the owner of the template database, which is called copy. So the thumb rule is, you should be if the that is template column is false, you should be a owner or super user. If that is template column is a true, then anyone can be able to create. Now I'll use template 0 create database. I'm not a super user, I'm not a owner of the template 0 database, but I'm trying to use template 0 as a template. Create database t1 template 0. See how, why am I able to create, why you are able to use this template 0 as a template database, right? Because for template 0, that is column, that is template column of a database is true, which means any user can use this database as a template database. So this is about the database management. Okay, this is about the database management session in postgres. So with that we have completed the database management. Okay,